Good evening, Wilmington. This meeting is now called to order. This is the Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting for Monday, May 13th, 2024. I'm the chair, Councilmember Chris Johnson from the 7th District. At this time, I will do a roll call for those in attendance for the committee. Vice Chair Harley, 4th District.
Present.
Councilmember Oliver, 3rd District.
Present.
Councilmember Field, 8th District.
Present.
Yep. Councilwoman Bracy at large.
Present.
Councilman Spadola at large.
Present.
And Council President Congo. Okay. Okay. Councilmember Darby, I have you recognized. If there's any other members? Yep. And if there's any other members on Zoom, please let Marshall know so you can be recognized. All right. And as a friendly reminder, only committee members should be making motions, as this is a finance committee meeting, not a joint meeting with any other committee. We will be going a little bit out of order tonight. Tonight, as you know, is there's a lot on agenda regarding the next fiscal year's budget. So we're actually going to be doing ordinance 240-24, which is an ordinance to approve a contract between the City of Wilmington and the Delaware Division of Public Health and Health and Social Services to enforce dog controls. This item will be going first. Is there anyone from the administration here to speak on that item?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
The floor is yours, Mr. Rago.
Okay, thank you. John Rago, Deputy Chief of Staff. I thank you all very much for this opportunity. For many city residents, their dogs and cats are cherished and loved members of their family. One member of this council features his dog prominently on materials for constituents. Shout out to Hoss. Our Chief of Staff has an adorable dog that she loves and who protects her from everyone, and I mean everyone. Hello, Coco. Many people know of the wonderful companionship offered by dogs and cats. The City of Wilmington has a responsibility to protect animals as well as people. We have an outstanding partner in the animal control and animal welfare arena in the form of the State of Delaware's Office of Animal Welfare. In fact, the person who, along with some wonderful staff, has helped to reform the way Delaware protects and cares for animals is with us tonight virtually. Please say hello to Christina Motoyoshi, who is the Director of the State Animal Welfare Office, and in a moment she can answer any questions you may have. Whether the issue is a stray or abandoned dog, a dog running at large, dogs that need to be reunited with their families, cats in peril, dangerous dogs that can possibly hurt people or need to be restrained, you can list and go down the list, and there are reasons why we need a strong animal control, animal welfare program. Rabies investigations, for instance, and spay and neutering our animals in order to control the animal population. You have before you tonight for consideration an ordinance which outlines a 3-year agreement with the state for the continuation of animal control and animal welfare services in our city. The cost is very reasonable and is arrived at by using a per person cost based on our city's population. We're very proud of our relationship with the state, which in turn contracts with the Brandywine Valley SPCA to provide a whole host of animal welfare programs such as adoptions, spay and neuter and rabies programs in Wilmington and throughout the state. I want to thank you for your attention to this ordinance, and many thanks to the sponsor, Councilmember Vincent White. Shout out to the 1st District, as well as co-sponsors, Council members Letitia Bracy, at-large member and dog owner, and Xanthia Oliver. Shout out to the 3rd District. There is more room on this ordinance for more sponsors. I ask you now, the council member Spadola just arrived. I don't know that he missed it.
I did not miss it.
You heard shout out to Hoss?
Hoss appreciates it.
All right. Hoss appreciates it too. Are there any questions about this ordinance?
Yes, Mr. Rego, thank you very much for the presentation. I've also seen a slideshow. I guess just first off, is this a new contract? This is not a new contract, right? This is an existing contract?
Yeah, this is something we've been doing year after year. This year, though, we're approaching it as a 3-year agreement. And many years out, we've been doing them as 1-year agreements. But the formula pretty much stays the same. There's just a 3% inflation increase each year in the services we receive from the Office of Animal Welfare. And if you look at the number of calls for service that we have in the city of Wilmington, it's a good deal.
And follow up, Mr. Rego, yeah, because I at least I can only recall previous 1-year agreements.
Yes.
Now, with the 3-year agreement, is there a benefit of doing this 3-year agreement? Do we get like a little bit of a cost savings?
We do not. I'll give you the cost. The cost is $292,000 and some change for the upcoming fiscal year 25. Then there's a 3% increase in FY26. It'll be $301,000, and in FY27, $310,000. Let me explain that there's a formula that is used throughout the state. So think of it this way: the Office of Animal Welfare is funded by City of Wilmington, Newcastle, Kent, and Sussex counties, and the state of Delaware. So if you put all of our monies together, that's how the office is funded. And each of us takes a portion of the funding through our responsibility, if you will, through the calls for service that come in to the city of Wilmington in our case.
All right. I would like to recognize Council President Congo and Council Member Fields. The floor. At this time, does anyone on the committee have any questions? Councilman Spadola?
Thank you. I have a handful, if I could.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rego. Like I said, Haas appreciates the love. I'm curious about the demarcation between when Wilmington Police would respond to something and when the Office of Animal Welfare would.
Okay.
So I think, without knowing the calls for service, I would imagine that barking dogs is one of the most common complaints when it comes to animals in the city.
How about if we bring Christina Motoyoshi is here, who's the Director of Animal Welfare. She's joining us virtually. If we want to bring her in.
Sure.
To answer some of these questions?
Yes, please. That
Okay.
would assist the conversation.
So, yeah, while she's coming in, I'm curious because I'm looking at how far away, like where are her officers stationed, in the sense that some of these services look like they are for in-progress complaints, meaning, somebody's walking on the street, they see a dangerous dog that needs an immediate response. And so my first question, though, is when people call 911 about a dangerous dog, or is it, I hope it's the responsibility of the dispatchers to then call Office of Animal Services, and they're not going to tell the person who called, oh, you need to call this number.
Right.
But that's a question for the city first.
My understanding is that is how it works. In other words, we look at the animal control enforcement officers as part of our team. If we need them, just like we need to call in LNI and the police on something, that's the way we work it.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I just want to double down on, I think it's very important that if somebody calls 911 because of a in-progress dog complaint, the dispatcher, the WPD dispatcher is not telling that person, oh, you need to call this number. WPD
Right.
doesn't respond.
Right.
But you're giving me assurance that WPD would reach out to the Office of Animal Welfare.
Yes.
And they would dispatch an
I'm
officer.
going to give you the assurance I can, but I would like to turn to Chris for her comment.
Thank you.
Yeah, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Motoyoshi. I'm the director at the Office of Animal Welfare. And to answer your question regarding the police and the differentiation between when we go and when they would go, if it's an animal welfare, animal control related complaint, we would be dispatched. The only time that police would be asked to assist is if it's something that's life-threatening, that's happening right now, or it's happening in the middle of the night when we only have on-call officers. that might be something the police are going to respond to because they can get there quickly. But we do have on-call officers after 7 p.m. and they will go there. Just their response time is going to be longer since they would be coming from their home. But any other calls we would be going to, sometimes we ask the police to assist if, you know, it's an unsafe situation or it's an animal cruelty type complaint that involves other types of crimes.
So if I'm understanding correctly, if somebody called up about a dangerous dog, the first response would actually be from WPD. Because you would, is that, because I just want to make sure it's important that the city and the state has this ironed out, that people aren't calling about dangerous dogs and people are, it's like that Spider-Man meme when everybody's pointing at the other person.
Yeah,
So-
we will get called, and we have officers right in Newcastle. We're right at the Herman Holloway campus, on the DHSS campus there in Newcastle. But if it was after hours, for instance, and it was an urgent situation, WPD is going to send someone, and also contact us.
Okay.
Does that help?
I feel like it's harder for me to get a crystal clear response, and I think I'm looking at the city for this, but I think what I want to hear from you is WPD will respond to in-progress dangerous dog complaints. If Office of Animal Welfare is, you know, even in Newcastle, 20 minutes is too long if there's a stray dog causing havoc.
Sure. I'll answer it this way.
Mr. Rego.
The Wilmington Police Department is certainly aware of the Office of Animal Control and the fact that they have enforcement officers. So they work in partnership. But I would imagine, I mean, if you call it an emergency, you sometimes don't know the total nature of an emergency, so the police are going to arrive.
Yes.
And if they arrive and see that they need animal control officers on scene, they'll call them in. So I think that's the best way to describe it.
Okay, I think that works for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
No, just want to follow up what Councilman Spadola said. I've been on both calls where I've called 911 if someone has given me this number, and I've also been on, I called the non-emergency, I'm sorry, it was 654-5151, and someone gave me the number to the animal service. Then when I called 911, another time, they were able to call this number and send the people from Newcastle. So I've experienced it both ways.
Okay, thank you.
But either way, they were available. I mean, but I see where you was going.
All right, any other comments or questions from council members?
I think I would like to follow. I think this number needs to be provided to everybody in dispatch. That just for clarity. I mean, when they're down dispatch, when I call 654-5151, they should have this animal control number in front of them.
Right, and because you mentioned it, council member, let's give the number out. It's 302-255-4646, and that is the Office of Animal Control for the state of Delaware, and we'll certainly make sure that our people have that and are using it.
I'm going to turn to is there anybody on Zoom, Marshall?
No hands up.
Okay. All right, I'd like to turn it to public comment. Any comments from the public? All right, seeing none, let's just turn back to, again, this ordinance. And as a note, I would like to be a sponsor, because I think it's good. Oh, it's good practice to do multi-year agreements. I've personally had to, been there when there's been an incident in my neighborhood, and we had to call animal control, and happened about 2 summers ago. Off Bancroft Parkway. It was pretty scary, but they were, animal control did a great job. They came pretty swiftly and got the dogs to where they needed to go and moved on from there. So I appreciate the administration doing this 3-year agreement.
Thank you.
And I believe Councilmember White is a prime sponsor, but he's not here. So Councilmember Bracy, any last final words on this?
No, I just think this is, it's an essential service that we need to make sure that we continue. There are instances where, we've had a council member recently that got bit by a dog. So having, access to animal control coming out and being able to mitigate the situation, but also knowing, as Councilman Spadola clarified, that Wilmington Police Department will respond in emergencies is good information to know. And I think, that's all I really have to say about this.
Since this is an ordinance, it does technically need to be moved and seconded out of committee. So at this time, I would entertain is there a motion to move ordinance 24-024 out of committee to full council for a vote?
So moved.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ordinance 24-024 has passed through committee and will be on the full council agenda for a vote, I believe as soon as possible. Is it going to be the 16th? Okay. All right, very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, members of council.
Thank
Thank
you.
you also to Christina Motoyoshi for being with us today.
Thank you. All right. So now moving back on the agenda, the next item is substitute 1 to ordinance 24-016, which is the ordinance to adopt an annual operating budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. It just, again, as sort of highlights, this is, of course, this has been a long time making, and I would say there's been many budgets. As chair, I've been proud of our committee establishing, and I couldn't be prouder of this one, because this budget builds on what City Council has been building over the past few years, working with administration. This builds on the progress in terms of doubling down in our neighborhoods, the progress built on increasing public safety, the progress built on making sure our parks are exactly where they need to be. All in all, progress continues to move forward. And there's a lot more work to do, but this budget hits it on all frames. So this kind of overview of kind of how we got here. March 21st, the mayor introduced his budget address, okay, which had a 0% property rate increase, 6% stormwater rate increase, $1 million from the tax stabilization fund, and there was a general fund budget of $192 million. That was what we got on council, just to clarify for the public. That was the mayor's proposed budget. Then on March 27th, we conducted budget hearings until May 1st. And we went line by line, item by item, and found out exactly what was necessary and what could be cut, what could be reworked. There were big things such as the EMS contract with St. Francis that we found out is not going to happen how we thought. So then, our duty was to make sure, again, we could use those funds then. How can we divert them and continue to invest in our neighborhoods? So we want a balanced budget. Number one is focusing on youth and focusing on our future. We did this by establishing $100,000, from increasing from a proposal of $100,000 to $200,000 for the HBCU Foundation. Again, this council believes that our youth is Wilmington's future. They are the future leaders of tomorrow, and we wanted to build on the progress that have frankly been building over past 8 years, the city's partnership with the HBCU Foundation. And so this is, again, we thought is in no better way to recognize the HBCU Foundation by us increasing the ante as to our investment in our community. We also added additional safety measures. For years, we've been hearing about traffic in our city. We have Mr. Tate that comes to every single council meeting, I'd say, probably since I've been here, and he talks about safety and traffic. So finally, for the first time ever, we have $100,000 towards a pilot program for traffic calming devices. Again, this is a huge win for all Wilmington residents, as many of us can attest to when we're in community meetings. That's what a lot of community has concerns about, because the safety of everyone is at risk. Neighborhood stabilization, I alluded to it earlier. This budget includes a landmark $1.5 million into the home repair lottery. Again, we saw the success of this program. We can't get the money out of the door fast enough for the home repair lottery, as Wilmingtonians from every section of the city essentially has bought into applying for this. It's generous income restrictions, and everyone is adamant that they need a roof, a window, door, anything They have come to the city for need, and so we are trying to get the money out as fast as we can. So we had to up this budget as we have the money pretty much earmarked already from the $2 million we allotted. Additional, for economic development, we've seen the effects of COVID. We've been here and navigated the city back to rise from COVID. But we realize a lot of our small and minority businesses are still feeling the after effects of COVID. So we added $350 to economic development to replenish the fund used to help our minority and small businesses. This is, again, making sure that our small business owners on Market Street and beyond, they are taken care of. And of course, water. That's a hot subject, subject we hear about every day. But we've increased the funding. We continue to, again, aggressively attack this problem as we have increased the funding for the water assistance program from $250,000 to $350,000. The rates, that's what everyone wants to know. We've negotiated with the administration, I believe, to reach a balance and a compromise of 5.8 from the proposed 9% from the administration, and stormwater rates to 4%, which is a negotiation from 6%. Again, I believe this is a win for every Wilmingtonian. This is, again, the experience we've gained on council, working together, and that, the first offer isn't always the best offer. And so I would, again, commend all my colleagues. We've worked day and night, sometimes 1, 2 a.m. working on this. Of course, our staff, Ms. Bass Knight, Chief of Staff, Parikh, and helping get this win for the city of Wilmington. Certainly it's not a perfect budget, but I think we find that this budget continues doubling down on work and investments in our neighborhoods. I wish we had, frankly, more money in neighborhood stabilization, but we got to start somewhere, and we got to continue moving our city forward. So with that, I will turn it over to OMB Director Rob Greco. He'll walk us through, I guess, the sort of chart changes, at least from the OMB perspective.
So before Rob goes into his presentation, I just want to again thank the committee members and all council members for allowing us to present the FY25 operating budget, the water sewer fund budget. I will say, and I mentioned it at the last meeting, that this was the best process that I've gone through with council in a very long time. And we did have really robust discussion during the budget and after the budget. And the budget that you see before you this evening, I believe, is reflective of the city's needs, and at the same time, we considered items that City Council wanted to have as a part of the FY25 budget. So with that, thank you again. I'm going to turn it over to Rob, and he's going to go through the details.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm looking at that screen, and those numbers look awfully small. I'm hoping, does everyone have a hard copy in front of them, at least
Yes.
those
Yes, we do.
present here? Okay. So let me just explain first what this is. As the Chief of Staff mentioned, the mayor proposed the budget, and then after the hearings, and then with some negotiations with council, there were changes made. So what this document attempts to do is detail those changes and show the new revenue expenditures and bottom line. So starting at the top, you'll see the gray box. The gray box is the original budget as proposed by the mayor. The next box, the blue box, is now the revised budget, the total revenues and expenditures. And then below that are the details. The first green box below the thick black line there, that's the general fund, and I'll go through this, but those are the detailed changes that occurred to the general fund. Below that, the changes to the water sewer fund. And then at the bottom, the orange color is special fund changes. And then on the second page, on the other side, changes to the internal service funds. And then the gray box there below that are revenue changes, changes to the revenues. And then finally, changes to transfers from fund balance. So going back over to the first page, starting with the general fund, we have a net increase of $1.6 million. Now, what we did here was that we had originally proposed an EMS division to take over ambulance transport service in the city. We are no longer going to do that, and we eliminated the EMS division, and that saved us almost $4.4 million. However, we still have to provide the service, or have the service provided, and we were able to get St. Francis to do a contract extension. And we have put that into the budget. That's for $1.9 million. That's item number 9 in that general fund green box. In addition, there were other items that were added, and we can go through the details, but Mr. Chairman, I'll defer to you as to, do you want us to read through every change, or?
No, I think the major changes, I think a lot of them some of them are just housekeeping. I think if you could highlight the changes just so there's confusion is cleared up regarding the FOP contract. I know that was a large cost. So how did that get factored into this budget?
Yeah, so you'll see item 10, and the FOP contract occurred, and the details happened after we had proposed the budget. So we have now added the cost of that contract, and you'll see it's $3.8 million. That $3.8 million represents the cost of the FOP contract above and beyond the place marker we had put in for the proposed budget. We had put in a 2.5% COLA just to have something. Go ahead.
And it's the timing of it, because I guess at the time the budget was originally produced, the contract had not been finalized.
We didn't
That's
have
correct.
the detailed numbers, no.
And this
Yes.
includes the retention pay, salary.
Correct.
Upgrades
Yes.
for our officers, and starting salary upgrades.
That's correct. It's a 2-year contract.
Excellent. Okay.
So that's that item you see there, number 10. And like I said, the other big item was the removal of the EMS division, and you'll see item 7 there, eliminate the 40 emergency medical technician positions and the manager, and that's the almost $3.3 million. There was MS&E that was included with that. That comes out, that's almost $950,000. And then finally, we eliminated out of IT the proposal to equip these new employees with PCs and tablets for that EMS division. That also comes out, it's almost $160,000. Moving down to the water sewer fund, there was an increase here to the utility assistance program. We're increasing it from $250,000 to $350,000. That's a $100,000 increase. That will be in the finance department. That's the MS&E account group.
Now, if you could, Director Greco, walk us through the revenue changes. I know there was some revenue hits, I guess, from the original proposal.
Sure, that's
based on some
the
tweaks.
second
Other
page.
side.
So we'll
So if
skip
you
ahead there. If you
If
go to the
could
second page.
Walk us through that.
Yeah. So you'll see the gray box. What we did here, item 1 is remove the projected revenue associated with the EMS billings. Because we were going to take over EMS, we were also going to bill. We were going to probably have a third party do it for us, but we would collect the revenues. We had projected about $1.9 million in revenue for half a year. So you'll see that has to come out of the budget now. We are not going to collect that revenue. The second one is, item 2, is the change in the water sewer rates and the change in the stormwater rate increases. We went from a proposed 9% increase to water sewer down to 5.8%. And we went from a 6% proposed stormwater rate down to a 4%. Combined, those two reductions to the increases lowered water sewer fund revenue by just over $2 million. And then below that, if you want me to, I can go to the transfers now, since we're on this side of the.
Yes.
Okay.
on the transfer.
So the transfers, and you spoke of this, there's a $1.5 million additional transfer from the tax stabilization reserve to the neighborhood stabilization fund to increase funding for the home repair program, as you mentioned. And in addition, there's a $350,000 transfer from the tax stabilization reserve to the economic strategic fund earmarked for minority business development program, for the minority business development program.
And Director Greco, just for that small and minority business program, right now is the fund approximately tapped out?
Yeah, there was $250,000 the last time it was refreshed, and I believe when we talked to the economic development director, it almost is depleted.
Very well. All right. I have no further questions, so I'm going to open up to members of the committee. Oh, yes, Vice Chair Harley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question, as it relates to economic and development, what amount did the administration add to the budget? I know we're putting in the 350, right? So that's an addition?
No, that is actually a transfer this year just by itself. We did one last fiscal year for 2024. We didn't have a transfer this year to Economic Development Fund.
So it's just the 350?
So the 350 is now in the budget, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Very well.
I wanted to say,
Yes.
no, I want to thank the administration. I wanted to thank Brett and Rob and all our colleagues, as we've been working on this water and sewer project for several months now, and I'm glad we were able to come to a compromise and come up with something reasonable for the water and the sewer increase for the residents of the city of Wilmington. And what I've been telling my constituents is that I want clean water. I don't want to be like Michigan or Mississippi or Michigan. You know, the money, and that's not for everybody, this is just my opinion. You know, I get my nails done, I get my feet done, that's like $100 and something. So for me to have a small increase that continue to have clean water and stormwater, it's worth it to me. I have some friends that live in Greenville who runs their water all day long, cleaning their lawns and all that. So, I mean, people think this water is a joke, and I don't take it lightly. I mean, you have to pay your electric bill, you have to pay taxes. Why not have clean water? When they had an incident in Philadelphia, it didn't even affect Wilmington because our water system is so clean. So I just like to say, when it comes to water and the sewers, I think it's important that we work together. I wanted to say this in the committee meeting, so I don't have to say it on the floor. Somebody needs to mute their telephone or the mic. I just wanted to say it in the committee meeting, so I don't have to reiterate it, that I think this is a win-win for everyone with this water and the sewer increase for the residents of the city of Wilmington. Thank you.
And specifically, Chief of Staff Washington, again, just to clear up any misconceptions about the water sewer fund, I want to ask two targeted questions. So the water assistance program, where currently is the funding right now? So say if we hadn't replenished it, where is it right now?
It's in the water fund. It's under the utility assistance
Is
program.
it still funds remaining? Is it
Yes.
mostly used?
Yes.
Okay, approximately. Yes, if you could, Director Taylor.
Brett Taylor, Director of Finance. We've used all of the CARES Act and ARPA money. We're now using the $250,000 that was allocated. We have used approximately 13,000 of it, so we still have a substantial amount left for the end of this year.
In this fund, is it a revolving fund? Is it a use it or lose it fund, or can it roll over every fiscal year?
It is not a rollover fund. Under the ordinance, the ordinance says that the Director of Finance has to promulgate rules pertaining to this. I would advise, however, that if at the end of a year you haven't used it all, it really should go back into the reserve, into the net position, as opposed to rollover, because say another administration comes in, doesn't use it, it continues to build and build and build. You're just allocating money, you're parking money in response to the program that you would otherwise be able to use elsewhere in the utility. So, you know, our mission is to use that $250,000 completely, you know, deplete it in any one given year. If after this year we decide that $250,000 is not enough, we can be back in for conversation.
Okay, and then how long that previous ARPA funds, it was around 400,000 before the amount put in?
Actually, we did $750,000 in the CARES Act and ARPA money. We did approximately $1.8 million in the LIWAP money. Now that was instituted in 2021. So over 3 years, we have given out $2.2 million in funding
Wow.
Okay.
to under these assistance programs. Now, granted, the LIWOP program was it was a combination. It was a cooperative effort between the state and the city. We were the intake agents for it. That money also came from the ARPA funds. The LIWOP money, unfortunately, has been fully depleted. We're hoping that Congress at some point will enact enabling legislation to permanently fund a LIWOP program, much the same way they have for a LIHEAP program.
All right.
So, just,
Yes, Councilmember.
thank you. Just to clarify, I just wanted, I know I heard you correctly, but I just want to make sure that's very clear. So currently, about 13,000 of the FY '24, the 250,000 that was allocated in FY '24's budget has been used because you were still spending down
Correct.
the ARPA funds, which leaves about 237,000 that's unused.
Correct.
That if unused as of June 30th, when we roll over to the next fiscal year, that would just go back to the water sewer fund, and we would just start July 1 with the 350,000 if
The
we pass.
250. Correct.
We just increased, right, so it would reset to whatever we pass on Thursday,
Correct.
which at this point, we're proposing 350,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, and I did have I had a two-part question to that, right? And you may be able to answer. So what if someone said, well, why don't you know, and this is probably for Chief of Staff, what would happen if we did say 0%? If we did 0% across the board, what would the water sewer fund look like? I'm just saying, if people propose that, what would?
It would look like a disaster.
Can't hear you, Tam.
It would look like a disaster,
Okay.
to be honest with you. So we shared the pro forma with City Council at 2%. And even at that rate, it's not covering all of our debt expenses. And then the years out, you actually would have to probably have double-digit increases on top of that. But we are constantly pulling money out of our rate stabilization to make up for the revenues that we're getting. So it just further depletes the fund, that's all.
All right. Thank you very much. Councilmember Fields. The floor is yours. I don't know if it's your mic, WITN. We can't hear her.
Good, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. Sorry, it's these doggone phones and Zoom button. Can't find it for nothing. First of all, I really would like to say to my colleagues on the Finance Committee and to the administration, everyone that was involved with making sure we had a balanced budget for fiscal 2025. Thank you. Myself, along with other individuals in my community, my constituents, that I had to explain to them the misinformation that they received from a couple of activist programs that the mayor, that the mayor said 9%, but they weren't clear on that we had not finished our budget hearings. They weren't clear that there was a second part to how we have to negotiate with the administration. So I think it's very important that, what we did this time was awesome because we put the information out. We let the constituents know. And this time we kind of combated the negative press that was presented about this council and about this administration in this fiscal year. So I just like to say I look forward to Thursday, and myself, like Councilwoman Oliver, I will not be speaking to it about the water and sewer fund. I wanted to say it in committee. This is just my personal belief, and she said fingernails, but I'll say you buying your kids sneakers, $125, $150 sneakers, and they're going to run out of them in about six months. So for me, I do want clean water. And so kudos to us. Kudos to 108 and the administration for doing what we had to do to ensure that our constituents were well taken care of. And we passed a budget, balanced budget, because that is what we're hired to do. That is why we're in office, to make sure that we have a balanced budget. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to piggyback off of Councilmember Fields' sentiments as it relates to the different narratives that get out that are not completely correct. However, I wanted to make sure that the community understands that in addition to us listening to the constituents that we represent, we do consider listening to some of our outside organizations in terms of what they have to say. We don't want some of these outside organizations to feel as though we turn a deaf ear to what they would like to share and what they have to offer. We do listen, and we do, but most importantly, we listen to the residents that elected us. We listen to their concerns and the conversations that they would like to have with us. And the majority of us have had that opportunity to listen to the majority of the residents that we represent and that put us in these seats. And I also want to mention that this is an ongoing conversation in terms of how we can continue to look at best practices as it relates to water. This is not the end of the conversation, but it is going to continue as it relates to, again, some best practices that we already have in place that we are going to make sure as it relates to those that are having problems with reading their bill, understanding their bill, paying their bill, getting behind on their bill, having a delinquent bill. We definitely have another initiative in place that we will be supporting residents when they call in. I just wanted to make sure that's on record, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair, and I would like to second that, without showing our hand too much, that we are at work every day on this, working with our policy team, working with administration. Again, we understand that water is a human right, and we are doing our best to not, to keep the city solvent and the water fund solvent, but to make sure residents' health and safety is honored. So we're working with the administration right now. We'll have some information about that in upcoming weeks about what we're going to do in that regard. But again, we have to do what we need to do to keep the city solvent and to keep moving forward. So with that, I'll then turn it before final comments to the public. Any public comments? Okay. Well, Ms. Basnight?
Yes, Chair, I just want to echo some comments that Chief of Staff Washington has made. I know this is going to be her last go-around, but there was a major, change with the negotiation process this year. It was definitely more fluid and more transparent process, even with council persons, just making sure everyone was informed and we all can agree to disagree, but still to move on to have a balanced budget, or for the best interest of the community. So I just want to mention that.
And now turning it back to council, I just had some questions.
I think there's public comment.
Oh, sorry about that. Public comment. Please come up and state your name. Yes, 3 minutes.
Is there going to be public comment after each of these?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to hold my comments until the water sewer fund part comes up. All right, thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else, public comments on the general fund?
No.
Okay. All right. And I guess seeing none, since this is an ordinance, it does need to be formally voted out of committee to full council for a vote. So it's this time, is there a motion to move substitute 1 to ordinance 24-016 out of committee to full council for a vote?
So move.
Is there a second? Second?
Second.
Okay. Properly moved and seconded to move ordinance, substitute 1 to ordinance 24-016 out of committee. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and the budget ordinance will be on the May 16th council agenda. Thank you very much, everyone. All right. Moving right along, we're gonna move back up to the top of the agenda, just to go over kind of, moving back in the order. So we're gonna go, I would like to call ordinance 24-013, which is the ordinance establishing rate of taxation on real property and taxable property, for this upcoming fiscal year. Is there anyone here to speak on that item? I believe this will be brief.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So that's the property tax rate. There's no change from the proposed budget, and there is no change from last year's budget. So the rate is basically 2.115% of assessed value of property in the city.
So, in layman's terms, that's a 0% increase.
There's no increase.
Got it. All right. Any questions on this, the real property tax?
No, I'd just like to say that's really good.
Yes.
Good to hear.
All right.
Again, working collectively together to try to look out for the constituents in the city of Wilmington. So for this fiscal year, there is no property increase, taxes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. Ms. Bassnight?
Yes, Director Greco, just one question. It's more of a, just want to make sure I have the right understanding. I noticed with the title, we're now saying taxable property of public utilities. Was there a reason like that's now included in the title and the synopsis and stuff?
The law department actually finalizes the budget, but
Okay.
we could ask, but I do believe that the city code does actually frame it that way, that it does include the utilities too. And I believe like Delmarva is able to get a credit against the franchise fee they have to pay based on how much property tax they're paying.
Okay, so because there was never like an issue with this not being here before, there
I
was
don't
never an
believe
issue,
so.
just
No,
clarifying.
The
Okay.
top is not enacting legislation, it's just a title, so I believe she just wanted to make it more detailed.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments on ordinance 24-013? Substitute 1 to 24-013. All right, I'm seeing none. I'll turn it to any public comments. All right, seeing none, since this is an ordinance, it's pretty straightforward. There's no property rate increase, so this time I'll entertain a motion to move substitute 1 to ordinance 24-013 out of committee to full council for a vote.
So move.
Is there a
Second.
Second, all right, some property moved and seconded. All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and substitute 1 to ordinance 24-013 will move, has been passed out of committee to full council for vote on May 16th, 2024. Moving right along, item number 2, kind of numerically, is substitute 1 to ordinance 24-014, which is the ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6th fiscal years 2025 to 2030.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
Ms.
just want to
Bassett.
clarify, they're not substitutes.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
sorry.
That's not a substitute. I apologize. Ordinance 24 in the previous corrections, ordinance 24-013 was not a substitute. It was the original ordinance 24-013. Now, moving down to 24-014, an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the six fiscal years 2025 to 2030. Is there anyone here to speak on that? The capital program?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. And actually, we can also include the next agenda item because they're kind of a companion piece.
Okay, 20.
So
You can
one
speak
is
to
the actual
24-015.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So one is the capital budget itself, and then the other one is the capital program, which includes the 6 years out. As you know, this is an off year. We have an active capital budget that lasts for 2 years, and we did the 24-25, and that's still in force right now. This is an off year, so there is no budget for the capital being changed. There is a 6-year projection of expenditures, and that just goes out to fiscal year 2030.
So, and this is a quick question on to the projects that, say, have been unfunded or a council member wants done or a community wants done, are there still funds that could be potentially shift over and/or earmarked for a different project for remaining funds?
We actually have a committee that meets called the Capital Review Committee, and part of that function is to look at what projects maybe now are defunct, where there's remaining balances in some of the capital projects, and to maybe shift that around through amendment. I think, Mr. Chair, also you were working on maybe an ordinance to allow an administrative process where maybe there was a certain amount left over where we could then, through that committee, shift money around without having to do an amendment each time to the capital budget.
Understood. All right. And the administration would be supportive of that kind of.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely, we would.
Very well. All right. Any public comments on ordinance 24-014? All right, seeing none, I'll turn it back to members of council. Any final comments or questions? All right, seeing none, at this time I'll entertain a motion to move 24-014 out of committee to full council for a vote.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Ordinance 24-014 has passed out of committee and will be full council on the vote, May 16th, 2024. And just moving right along, we already had Mr. Greco speak about ordinance 24-015. At this time, is there any public comment on 24-015? All right, seeing none, I would like to, I will entertain a motion to move ordinance 24-015 out of committee to full council for a vote.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Ordinance 24-015 has passed out of committee to full council for vote on May 16th, 2024. Okay, now moving right along. This is a substitute ordinance. This is substitute one to ordinance 24-017, ordinance to amend chapter 45 regarding water sewer system rates and stormwater rates for fiscal year 2025. Again, is there anyone from administration? I know we spoke high level about this a few minutes ago. Is there anything else to add about this?
I mean, speaking still fairly at a high level, so the water sewer rate was changed to 5.8%, the increase. The increase for stormwater was made to be 4%. That gives us a total increase in revenue for the fiscal year of $3.7 million, the projection. And I don't know if WITN can put up the ordinance on the screen, but the last page, there's a kind of a fiscal impact table for a typical residential customer. I think that would be useful to see, and we could go through that briefly.
Yes, that would be very helpful. I think for council members as well.
They don't have that, so if we can just, I'm sorry, they don't have that.
Oh, they don't have the ordinance.
Is there
Okay.
any way to show that, or? Oh, no,
No, they
WIT
don't
know
have
that?
it. It
Okay.
wasn't-
So,
If you have the ordinance in front of you.
yes, let's
it's
walk
the
through it.
last
So,
page.
so let's go over water,
That
okay?
last page.
So, and I know the public it will be visible on the city council's website. We'll have that up tonight. But we have it in front of us right here. So again, we apologize for not having it. It's on the back. All right, so let's walk through water, okay? So with the proposed 5.8% increase, what is the monthly increase?
Yeah, so
for
if you
the
look at
average
the
consumer?
chart, I mean, this, according to Black and Veatch, our consultant, the typical residential customer uses 4,000 gallons per month. So a customer, a residential customer, someone in the city, using $4,000 per month, what would these increases do to their bill? So you see for water, their bill would increase by $2.11 per month. For sewer, it would increase by $1.54 per month. And for stormwater, it would increase by 21 cents. So the total monthly increase would be $3.86 for the typical residential customer in the city.
Okay.
So we're not talking about large dollars here, compared to maybe other utilities.
Like you saying like electric bill or cable bill?
Yeah, or even other water utility
Okay.
increases that are happening.
Very well. All right. Any comments or questions from members on council?
Yeah, I'd like to make.
Yes, Councilman.
You know, so if that's the increase, my council member just stated you can't even get a cup of coffee at Starbucks for $5.65. It's been all on the news. It's increased to $7. So, I mean, when you look at, you know, for our residents, when you look at the rate increase impact on a typical residence, which is on the back of here, and I plan on sharing this with some residents. I'm gonna make a copy of this and make sure we give out this. You're talking about a monthly increase, $3.83, and a monthly, I mean, that's monthly increase total, what, $5.65 for water and sewer and stormwater.
It's a percentage,
The
Councilman
percentage,
Oliver.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, because the bill is different over there, right? But I'm just saying, just to look at the increase, I don't think it's much. So I just think, once again, we've done an outstanding job working together.
Yeah.
And that's all.
Okay.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I also wanted to remind those that may just now be tuning in that we will be adding the additional 100,000 to the amount that we already have for water bill utility assistance. As many know, we had the 250,000 last year, and we just heard recently that only 13,000 of the 250,000 have been used. So we're even taking it up a notch. So for those that may feel that even though it's very minimal, if you have any issues or feel as though that this may create a hardship for you, that we do have the additional funds, and if you call 311, they will definitely be more than happy to assist you and confirming your qualification. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I want to back that up. You talk about the fund and just again, historical context. When COVID happened in 2021, there was a moratorium on water disconnections and also sheriff sales. And that continued, was the chief of staff for about 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
So that continued for about 2 years. So really, I know since this council 108's been in session, we've done everything we can to make sure that water emergencies are treated as such. And so coming out of COVID, there were a lot of past due bills, and so the money was to replenish those bills. So if we look at since 2022, any disconnection, and I don't believe there's been almost no sheriff sales, we've had the money out there to help. So anyone who qualified, and they could apply for help. So again, on council, you know, we're left with wrestling. Well, why aren't people applying if they truly have a need? So that's part of our job to try to figure it out, and then we're trying to work with the advocates to make sure that truly, if somebody's in need, since we've reinstituted the help, why are they not applying? Why are they not able to apply? So that's kind of where we are. Again, just as a public disclosure, we are doing every single thing to make sure no one gets disconnected, no one gets sheriff's sale. Councilmember McCoy has talked about this. No one who truly qualifies for help is going to have a disconnection or sheriff's sale. I'll say that again. No one will have a disconnection or sheriff's sale. And working with Director Taylor, he's ensured that's happened. I know on our watch. Maybe previous councils, we can't be accountable for what they did, but I know on us council, we put money in there. This was the first time ever in city history there was money in there directly from city council funds for this. So again, hats off to our colleagues, all of us working with the community to make this happen. Basically, the community should you know, get hats off for bringing this to our attention and making sure we put the funds in here. Any other comments on just the water? Yes, Councilmember Bracy.
It's already been said, but I just want to make sure that it's very clear for the public that there's approximately $200 and let's say $30,000 left in the assistance program today And I personally don't want to return that money to the fund. I would hope that anyone that needs help with their water bills, because I know that, the best case scenario would be for us not to increase it at all and it'd be 0% the way we did property tax. I know that's the best case scenario. I know addressing affordability and the root causes of why people can't afford to pay, whether it's electric, their rent, their car payment. The root causes is something else that we need to continue having a conversation around. But I would implore anyone that is having trouble now to apply. And the other piece of that is if you're not having success, we need to know. So we need to know if it's not working. If there's something broken, you're applying for assistance and it's not happening for you, then we need to identify those issues so that we can kind of figure out what's going on, where the breakdown is there a policy change that needs to happen, or maybe there's assistance that you need in the application process. So that's the other piece of this for all of those that are really passionate around this. We appreciate your passion, and hopefully you'll see, even though this isn't a perfect outcome as to what everyone would want, sometimes we have to give a little, and so instead of 9%, we've gone down. Instead of 250, we've increased it to 350,000 for assistance. So hopefully people will understand that we're trying to help as many people as possible. And again, please help people apply, get them signed up, and if it's not working, if the process is broken, please let us know.
Yes, thank you. Lastly, I'm going to piggyback off of what Brett said, so it's no misinformation out there. Normally, that money is returned. He didn't say it would be returned, said normally. So if that money runs out and administration comes together and have a discussion, I'm sure it's no problem to replenish that fund, because they hear that and think that once this is over, and that's not the case. We are here to help our constituents, not see them, fall down. Also, I like to state that the telephone number to call would be 311. Leave a message for someone in finance department that you need some assistance with your water bill. It's been a program for seniors for years anyway. I know my aunt used to take advantage of various things in real estate and housing. So just call 311 and leave a message, and there's no need to call up to the office because you need 311. Someone will normally get back in touch with you within 24 to 48 hours. And also, I've been working with some constituents, connecting them to Attorney Wali, who is trying to help, and also with property and his department, which is recorder deeds. So they are helping individuals get some who are having problems with names not being transferred, elderly people who have passed away. So if you go to recorder deeds, they have a place they are referring people to. And also, I know Wali has been, he's assisted like 3 people in my district with getting their properties transferred from their grandmother's name or from whoever, just tangled up properties, period. And he's doing it for free. I'm not saying for everybody, but he did, because these women were much elderly. But it is some help out there. If you call and you need your property, you may still be in your grandmother's name and you just never had the money to get it transferred over, call Recorder or Deed, or just come in and go to Property's office. What's that, the 2nd floor? They are helping. He's referred a couple people. So it is some help out there that people are not. Register wills, thank you, not recorder deeds. Register wills on the 2nd floor, Mr. Property. You can go in there and ask for him in his office. He's assisted 2 people that I know of to help them get some tangled up wills straightened out. So sometimes it's just about asking a question that people don't know how to get things done. Thank you.
Vice Chair?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add this one point, that this city council is trying to remove every barrier that a resident would have to get their water shut off. All we need you to do is pick up the phone and call so we know how to help you. That's the only reason there will be an issue if a resident simply just doesn't do anything. So we just want to encourage everyone that's listening in this committee meeting. Unfortunately, first of all, I want to thank those that did show up and those that are on the call, on the Zoom, because this is the time to talk about these things, to discuss, to answer questions. If you don't understand, this is the time in the committee meeting, and it would be a wonderful thing if this room was packed out as it relates to those that had a lot of issues and concerns around water. But nonetheless, we're happy that those that are here showed up. We have this recording, so for those of you that are here that would like to share this information, we're going to encourage you to please use this information to share with your neighbors and those that you know have a lot of concerns about water. And again, we're removing every barrier, even with the share cell. We're removing water as a qualifier. And lastly, we have until the end of this month the $230 some thousand that's in our coffers right now. So please use it. As Councilmember Bracy mentioned, we do not want to see the money go back into reserves. We want it to be utilized for what we put it there for people, for residents that have issues with their water bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comments?
Yes.
On the water rates? Okay. All right. Yes, sir. You can come to the podium.
Can I get some help?
Is there anyone here to help Mr. Davis?
They said you helped me come to the podium. Okay, thank you. Oh, okay. I'm getting a lot of help, a lot of hands on.
All right.
A lot of hands on, thank you. Am I at the podium?
Yes.
That's Mr. Davis.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Good evening, members of this Finance Committee. My name is Dwight L. Davis, and I just want to state for the record that I am and was a member of the Wilmington City Council Reparations Task Force, and I wanted that to be stated for the record. And also, it needs to be stated very briefly that it was City Council person Michelle Harley, who I give credit to this recent reparations proposal that we just passed, that you guys just passed on May the 2nd as amended. Let me speak to the issue of the at hand about the water. And what I've heard over and over again is that if you qualify, and no one's really expounded on what those qualifications are. But what I found out in our investigation surrounding with the work of the task force is that there are just not that many homeowners who qualify, quote unquote, for this program. Those that are qualifying, believe it or not, are those who are property owners. The property owners who own the apartment complexes that have put into the contracts for rent that the individual renter is responsible for the water bill. So what happens is that when these individuals move out or are put out of these residences, of their apartments, of their rental units, then those that are responsible for the water bill is the property owners. So that information is something that needs to be looked at, because the reason that a lot of people are not applying is because they don't own the units in which they are renting. And so I think that it's important, and I'm going to end it on this, it's important that the Wilmington City Council Reparation Task Force report gets reviewed by this committee, because incorporated in that report is the suggestions like of which I'm discussing right here at this present time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis. Okay, next speaker. On the water.
Hi, my name is Christian Willauer. I'm a city resident and also had the chance to serve on the Fines and Fees Task Force, and I'm a member of the Wilmington Fines and Fees team. And I wanted to thank the chair and the vice chair and all the members of this committee for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to talk about the water bill. I think it's very important that we have a good quality water. All of us want to be able to drink the water that comes out of the tap. We use it every day. And so nobody wants to skimp on the revenue from the water bill. But what I wanted to ask the city council tonight to take a really close look at is this thing called indirect costs. And the indirect costs are things that are charges to the water sewer fund that reimburses the city, reimburses the general fund for costs that are done by the city that theoretically support the water sewer fund. So it's not about, you know, delivering the water, it's not about fixing the pipes, it's not any of that. It's something that the city is doing to support the water sewer fund. And I don't think that there's enough detail about what those services are and why they cost $9 million. So it's really important that we're not raising the water bill to pay for city services that are unrelated to delivering water and sewer services. So I just really encourage you to look into that and make sure that we're not moving costs off the city and onto the water bill. And just looking at, you know, just some reasons why it might seem that that's happening is because if you look at the general fund expenses from 2017 to 2025, they've increased by about, and you can look more into this, you know, because obviously you have a lot more information. But it looks like those increased by 26%, you know, in that time frame. But the indirect costs, meaning these things that the city is theoretically doing for the water sewer fund, those costs increased by 73%. So the cost of the city providing services to the water sewer fund just went up so much faster than the city's general fund expenses. So to me, that seems like the city is moving some costs onto the water sewer fund that are not really water sewer fund related. And then the second thing is the same thing with the finance department. The water sewer fund also pays part of the finance department. And the finance department's costs went up by, it looks like 16% during that same time period. But the amount of, for the general fund, they were paid by the general fund, but the amount that was paid by the water sewer fund, they went up by 85%. So it just seems like the costs that the water sewer fund is paying are going up a lot faster than the costs that the general fund is paying. So I would just encourage city council to look at that. And, you know, I think it's good that it's not a 9% increase. That would have been really difficult for a lot of residents. But, you know, just by having these costs, these indirect costs, and even the finance costs go up by the same amount as the general fund, you wouldn't have to raise the water sewer fund at all. So I hope you'll take a look at that, and before you approve the increase, that you'll ask for more information on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Willauer. Anyone else, public comment? Anyone on Zoom, Ms. Basnight?
No.
All right, turning back to council, just wanted to, I guess, just ask some final questions, administration, okay? First of all, regarding and this is probably for Mr. Taylor, the homeowners versus renters. Is the current fund right now, the 250, is it available to renters?
Yes.
Okay.
It's available to renters.
100% renters
Now,
have been available.
let me qualify something.
Okay.
There are two types of renters. One is that if the landlord has to give, if the renter is to pay the bill, the landlord as property owner has to agree that the renter will pay the bill, and the renter will be listed in the record as getting the bill. There are property owners that will get the bill and then they're responsible for paying the bill, but then will go to the renters to collect the prorated portion of the bill in order to pay it. If, in those cases where a landlord is behind on paying that bill, despite the fact that the renters have paid it, is a question that we don't get into. That is a legal issue between the renter and the landlord. But it may result in that landlord getting, if the landlord doesn't pay it, and it's in that person's name, they're going to get the 96-hour shutoff, or likewise, a delinquent bill. This is very important that if a renter is responsible for paying the bill, that yes, we will provide that funding to the renter as a direct subsidy.
Okay. Yes, Councilman.
Follow up to that. So just if you were talking to somebody that was going to rent an apartment, would you encourage them, and they had to pay for the water, would you encourage any tenant entering into a lease agreement to get the water bill in their name and not the landlord's to avoid a situation like that?
It's complicated. Yeah, it's a complicated question. A lot of these apartment buildings, if they have multiple tenants, it becomes very unwieldy to have some tenants paying the water bill while the HOA is responsible for paying the rest of the bills. So in that case, I would say no, because of the complications. Now, there's instances, I will tell you, there's instances where a communal property may not have an HOA, right? They may have a property manager, and the property manager is responsible for paying that bill. It's all up to the decision between the landlords and the tenants as to how they're going to be paying those bills out.
Okay.
We don't have a unified, code provision on that particular item. I think that one of our struggles is that this is true for condominiums as well as apartment buildings, is that, there may be entities that don't have sufficient homeowner or tenant associations that would allow everybody to pay in and to be able to have that properly taken care of. There's been some draft legislation that I've looked at, but maybe something we would consider in the future.
Very well. All right. Any other Vice Chair?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So to your point, Director Taylor, as I had mentioned before, we're going to continually look at some best practices as it relates to how we can eliminate these additional barriers. For an example, looking at possibly like the percentage of those that call in that may get turned down as it relates to their complicated landlord kind of situation. Because as you were explaining that, I was thinking about how if there's like one tenant to a landlord, that is very easy. But like you said, you have condos where the
apartment buildings.
Yeah, apartment buildings, condos, right, where they don't pay the bill directly. So you have all these different scenarios as you were sharing. So I do think, again, as we had already discussed it, members of the Finance Committee, how we can continually better assist our residents, educating them as it relates to how to better assist them. So that is a conversation that we can continue in terms of the different scenarios of the different renters and whatever barriers that may be there that we can help to support and assist and advocate for. Then we can do our best to do that as well.
Happy to have that conversation.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Spadola, leave your next.
Thank you. I am curious the administration's response to if indirect costs have gone up 80% relative to the general fund, only going up 20%.
I absolutely don't know where she got that number. I don't know where she got that number from, so it's hard for me to say if it's valid or not. I don't believe it is, because when we look at our employees and what we charge them in terms of the indirect costs, I mean, we split things up between how much time a person is spending with the water and sewer fund working on that, or is it general fund? We have different buildings here that also that applies to. So I don't know where she got her numbers from. I can't say whether they are valid or not. I don't believe that they are. It just seems to me that that's a very high number. That has to be, you know, it's just no reason why it would jump that significantly, not unless, Rob, and you could speak to this, that we had some kind of anomaly.
No, I think about 5 years ago or so, there was a change. We used to have, and Marshall is aware of this too, we used to have internal services, and IT was part of that. And so that was abandoned, and now IT is its own department. And instead of charging back, it's in the general fund. And so now part of that is what used to be charged as internal service chargeback for IT now hits the indirect cost. So it moved places, but the cost is moving generally with the general fund. There was no 73% total increase to the water fund because of that. What it gained in the indirect cost as an increase, it lost in the internal service chargeback. It's just two different lines.
Very well. All right. Any other final comments or questions by members of council? All right. Again, I would thank the administration for providing this very helpful information. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to move substitute number 1 to ordinance 24-017 out of committee to full council for a vote.
So move.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, substitute 1 to ordinance 24-017 has passed out of committee to full council for a vote on May 16th, 2024. Thank you very much, everyone. And last but not least, at this time, I'd like to move to ordinance 24-026. This really is a housekeeping measure. We do this every 4 years. It was setting the 109 council session salaries in effect, similar to how the mayor and treasurer salary is set out as well. It's really just setting it to match up with more of CPI. There was a salary study we've conducted that we had. I believe PFM conduct a study to make sure that we match up city council salaries with our surrounding jurisdictions. And frankly, it's really to make sure that we are able to keep the best and the brightest on council. You know, everyone I'm aware of as council is an everyday working person, and no one is a hedge fund millionaire on the council that I know of. So, you know, we really want to have everyday hardworking people on council, and so we want the salaries to align with that. So, is there anyone from city council staff, I believe Ms. Bass Knight, anything else to shed on the light on this?
Well, with this, Chairman, one of the things that will change is in the past, the salary structure for council was to receive whatever non-union received the 4 years prior to. With this particular ordinance, whatever the CPI W is, then that particular council will receive it within that year. So this ordinance establishes that so that council can actually receive an increase within that same year, but it's predetermined based upon whatever that CPIW is.
And it's just as recommended by PF, the consulting company, PFM?
Yes. So to be clear, there was 2 recommended suggestions for them for this. One was to use the executive and managerial meets, or to use the CPIW, right? We just believe with using the CPIW, it would be the best because it's known, and that can be a qualifier to put with the council salary every year. You can look at that. And that number, would accurately reflect to take away some of the changes that has happened in the past when it came to determining, what non-union received, that they got one-time payment. So we no longer have to deal with that.
And to clarify, Ms. Bassett, this is for the 109 session of council beginning in January 2025, correct?
Yes, so this here establishes for the 109th session of council to be effective January the 7th for 2025.
So it does not affect the salaries of current sitting council members, correct?
No, it does not. And because the current session of council cannot, per council rules, cannot set its salary.
Excellent. All right, any other comments or questions by members of council? Vice Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also wanted to make certain that the public is aware that, as Ms. Bassnight mentioned, we receive feedback from two different companies, and we definitely did not go with the higher recommendation. That we opted, looking at it overall, looking at everything that needed to be considered, in addition to their assessment, the things that they don't calculate into their assessment, we still decided to go in the lower median range versus the higher range. I just wanted to make sure that the community is aware of that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? Councilmember Bracey?
I just wanted to, for the record, make sure that the public understood what we're basing it off of now, which is the CPIW stands for Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. So instead of, as Councilwoman Harley alluded to, using the executive formula, we're using the wage earners and clerical workers formula for these for the salary increases. So I just wanted, because if you hear CPIW, you might not know what that is. So I just wanted to make sure people understood.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just Ms. Bass, I have a question. It's does the state do such a similar index, or to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, the state has a compensation committee review board that does theirs, and I'm not sure if they base it upon the CPIW. But once again, we're using this based upon what PFM provided and suggested.
Okay, all right, very well. All right, any other questions from members of council? No, click it to public commenting.
President Congo has his hand up.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna kick it to public comment first. Any public comment, Ms. Bassnight?
None.
Okay. Then I'll turn it back to council for any final comments or questions. Council President Congo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Was it discussed what those salaries would be if it's passed?
Yes, President Congo, you want to know like what the due salaries?
Yes, just want to be transparent with the public because we're talking about giving the next session an increase. So I just want them to know what that would be increased to. Because we're saying that we're going to give, it's suggested to give an increase, but we didn't talk about what that increase would be.
Ms. Bassnight, I believe it's on page 3 of the page. I guess just kind of index it for where the current salary is versus what it is currently.
Okay, so currently, councilperson's current salary is $29,057. The salary will go up to $35,885. The president pro temp salary is currently $32,997. That will go up to $40,751. The finance committee chair salary is currently at $34,151. That salary will go up to $42,176. The president's salary is at $36,727, and that will go up to $45,358.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So it's anywhere, Ms. Bassing, from a $6,000 to $9,000 increase,
That's correct.
based on obviously the lower for the lower range and the higher for the higher range.
Yes, and once again, it's, the reason it's that way is, to level up the salaries.
And where surrounding area towns looked at as well, like Newark and other towns?
Yes, so the PFM report, it actually looked at the state of Delaware, it looked at Newcastle County salary, it looked at Dover, Delaware, it looked at Newark, Delaware, Rockville, Maryland, Salem County, New Jersey, Allentown, PA, Reading, PA. It even looked at Philadelphia, but Philadelphia is full-time council. It even looked at Baltimore, Maryland, which is also full-time.
And then, do you know if PFM also looked at, I guess, the responsibilities of council members in different jurisdictions, like compared to, say, Newcastle County Council?
They looked at some of the similarities, but one of the things that didn't occur is I don't recall them like reaching out to interview council persons, just to get a wraps of what our council persons did. But I would assume that perhaps the HR director probably shared some of what council's responsibilities are, but I just wanted just to mention that. But it is in the report. Some of the things, but not much. Meaning, because there's different responsibility for when you're doing something from a local perspective versus like on a state level as well as on a county level.
And I guess, are you alluding to like a number of meetings and things that council persons have to attend?
Yes, so if you look at like the number of meetings, if you look at the number of calls, that's critical.
Okay, all right, very well. All right, this is an ordinance, so any final comments or questions first? All right, this is the ordinance, so it technically needs to be voted out of committee. So it's time I'll entertain a motion to move ordinance 24-026 out of committee for council for a vote.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Ordinance 24-026 is passed out of committee and will be on full council for a vote on May 16th, 2024. Everyone sit tight. At this time, I believe we have reached the end of our packed agenda. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the finance committee has concluded. We'll see everyone Thursday night. Thank
Have a
you.
good night.